it is that time of the Gamescast for our question of the week. So we just talked about the Nintendo Switch, the launch that just happened on Friday. So my question to you is, what is the best game console launch ever? In gaming history, what do you think is the best console launch ever? So there can be different tactics that you can tackle this question. Is it just based on one quality game-changing experience, such as Super Mario 64, Halo, and I will throw in Breath of the Wild, that one big game that stands out? Or is it the quality of the range of games over genres? Because there's been console launches that's been around 20 games, 25 games. So what do you think is the best game console launch ever, and why?
For me, playing all these different systems, I think for me was PlayStation 2. I remember one of the first titles was SSX. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but that's a snowboarding game. And when I first played it, then I was like, well, this is somewhere where I can see other games like use that implementation. Not necessarily the snowboarding thing, but where the graphics were going at that time, and also the gameplay. The game was a great game, was an amazing game for a first title launch, and that was the first game that I had. So I can't vaguely. I try to remember what other games my friends had at that time that they picked up, but I remember they were asking me to borrow my game to skip over theirs, and it was SSX, which was by EA.
And when I'm talking launch, I'm talking day one.
Yeah.
Not the launch window that everyone's saying, the first 90 days. Talking about day one when a console is launched. Yeah. The best launch lineup on day one. So PlayStation 2 would be...
It was for me, because then I was sold. I was like, okay, well, I know what direction they're going with the games. Once I played SSX. I mean, that was just...
So the best game console launch, so the one game, SSX, that was enough?
Because then I saw what they could do with the upcoming titles that they were gonna bring out. It just... that game, and I hate sports. Like, I don't play sports games at all. And that was kind of a mix of a sports game and also... It was mostly sports and action, because you could punch the other players, couldn't you? And, like, knock them off the...
A little bit,
yeah. So it's kind of like Road Rash on, like...
like Road Rash.
It was a little bit more competitive Tony Hawk.
Yeah. And it was on snowboards, and it was great. Like, that was my first game.
You could somewhat customize things.
Yeah.
Buy different boards.
Yeah, and your the snowboard that you chose had different tricks as well.
Yeah, there was leaderboards and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, it just... That's the one that got me.
I get that. What are you going to go with, Steve?
I've been waiting for this, and I know I'm going to get shit for it. I have reasons. The best game console launch ever. The Nintendo Wii. The best game console launch. Why is that?
I actually took a drink so I could do a spit take, but no, I actually had a similar thought.
The Nintendo Wii. Why? You can see how that can be...
Sports.
Controversial. Launching with The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Again, that's for the hardcore gamer for the Wii.
It's a GameCube title.
So is Breath of the Wild the Wii U title?
Technically, yeah.
But it launched on the system, so I got a Wii on day one.
No, I'm just bringing up
But it was available on the Wii for the hardcore gamer.
Yeah.
Wii Sports. That is a game changer in itself. No matter what you think of the Wii Sports is a game changer.
Yes, agreed completely.
How it showed what you can do with motion controls. Again, I'm talking day one, not the end of the Wii life cycle, which it was just shovelware.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Wii Sports, a pack-in with the game, which 1-2 switch, like Rich, I don't even know if it was even on camera, said that 1-2 switch should have been, I'm giving you credit, should have been packed in with
the tech demo,
the
but
console.
It shows you potential and gets you hyped up. You shouldn't pay $60 for that. They should pay themselves to make sure that that's included, so that you tell all your friends, or you bring us over to make sure that you have the ability to have them milk cows to convince them to go out and spend $300 at this.
I like how we just like to throw in the milk cows thing over and over again.
because it's the most ridiculous and the most demeaning thing that they could have come up with. And it's the most antiquated. It's a way of them going, you're jerking something off, but it's not, because it's got a real-world version of that, so you're not jerking a big dick. But that's what it is. It's you're jerking a dick.
It takes skill.
How good are you are jerking dick? That's what drunks like us at a get-together are going to do, is be like...
I should win every time, then.
Exactly.
You know
that's
what?
why you
I lost.
Wii Motion
I lost.
The sports resort.
I actually lost. No, it actually takes finesse.
Well,
Milking
you did
cows.
Against your fiance, which is
finesse.
actually a compliment for her. But just so we're all clear, when we played the Wii Motion Plus, the Sports Resort, beat me completely, and I mean in the game, not in real life.
I just did jerk-off motions for Wii
Exactly. I was actually trying
And
to sword fight, and he was actually trying to sword fight. Guess who won? This guy. And I will tell you all day and night... Completely won. He completely won. I'm trying to avoid euphemisms because I know he's going to edit it into me saying.
I'm just saying thank you for the compliment to the
you
fiance.
Won. You were very competitive that day,
No.
and you know what? It's a compliment to Sarah
that she beat me in
won.
milking cows, and she dominated. She had the finesse and squeezing.
You know what?
She got
if
more
you were to
squeezed
call
out.
me and be like, we're playing the 1-2 switch, we're going to milk some cows, I'm going to be like, go fuck yourself. What else
You
is
literally
there?
texted him that. Again, I'm the fourth wall breaker. I'm Deadpool here. That happened. He did text that, and he said, "The fuck we are."
Pretty much. It's not happening. And, I mean, I'll play something else. I'll try whatever else there is. But you know.
So those are the two big titles: Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess and Wii Sports. But there was other launch games that came to show the motion controls. First one. Super Monkey Ball. I loved Super Monkey Ball on the GameCube, and how they did it with the motion controls showed it as a launch title, Super Monkey Ball. Also, Trauma Center. Have you guys heard of
I have heard
played
of Trauma
Trauma
Center.
Center,
Yeah.
Trauma Center? And now with motion controls, performing surgery. Again, launch game. So those 4 launch games showing what you can do with the motion controls, take advantage of the Wii. They got great reviews. No, those
They
4
were
games.
Fun games too.
Fun games to do, challenging.
Yep.
Also, that launched for the Wii. Again, Red Steel. They over-promised of Red Steel.
No, but it was a big seller. It
was gonna be.
It was a big seller.
To sell what it can be done. Again, it wasn't fully realized until the Motion Plus, but by then it was too late.
No, but everybody's convinced that sword fighting was accurate. It didn't matter. They got what they wanted out of it. So.
Yeah.
But again, it was...
And didn't the sequel have the Robo Lincoln in Washington? So how do you not give that 2 thumbs up?
Yeah, so Red Steel, again, a launch title to see with the gun. With the
nunchucks.
sword was okay, but with the gun, with Red Steel. Also launched with Call of Duty 3. Again, didn't compare to the actual console games, again, on the Xbox 360 or...
No, but they used the motion controls in different ways for the crouching and stuff. And
motion
the bayonet.
controls. Again, launch game Call of Duty 3. It wasn't...
I hate to admit it, I'm going to concede. I'll tell you mine in a minute, but I concede you win.
And then Rayman, Raving Rabbids. Again, that was a fun party game. Get to know what the motion controls are on launch. Again, because the Wii had so much mystery around it to see what can these motion controls do. And that's what these launch titles... Again, there's a lot of shovelware as well, even on day one with the Wii.
But a lot of it came later on.
A lot of it came later on.
They came to play the first day. I hadn't thought of that. I was wrong on my earlier estimations.
And again, they had...
My earlier unaired estimations.
But the one thing that I think tops it is the Virtual Console for the Wii. The nostalgia. Again, that was in 2006 when the Wii was launched. Nostalgia as, is all emulation, the Retron. So it wasn't the emulator that wasn't big yet to go retro. Virtual Console. Yeah. And these are the Virtual Console launch games. On day one when the Wii launched, had the original Legend of Zelda, Super Mario 64, Sonic the Hedgehog. Those 3 titles on day one for Virtual Console. So you get those new games as well to show what the motion controls are, and you can go old school, get the Legend of Zelda, Super Mario 64. Also, you get SimCity F-Zero as well, which was Super Nintendo launch titles.
That was the first time we got a Sonic game on a Nintendo console, wasn't it? Was
yeah.
That emulator from the original Sonic?
Yeah, so the first time
that
playing
was a big
Sonic
sign of,
on...
Because I was one of those Genesis guys that does what Nintendo don't. I understand. That was a big move.
And again, it had other launch titles for the Virtual Console, but those are the big three, where again, you can download those games on day one when you got your Wii. So that's why I think the Nintendo Wii actually had the best launch lineup ever.
Conceded. I was actually going to say the Game Boy because of the packing with Tetris. And Tetris was I don't know if anybody's looked into the history of that, with how that was a big game changer. The Russian government has made a lot of money off of that. The creator basically died penniless in prison is one of the stories. Don't quote me on that, but that's one of the things that I've read in the last couple of weeks. And I remember that was the go-to thing. Everybody had it because it came with the system, and it was a new way of playing. Convinced people that this was something that could really be innovative. But I completely concede. You made nothing but solid points on the Wii, and like I said, earlier times we've had these discussions about the value of the Wii. That was a very strong lineup. So
yeah, the lineup, and then but once after a few years, it's a totally different story of what happened to the Wii, which led to the Wii U.
That can happen with anything. The last titles that were coming out on anything are either they use the hardware to its maximum, or they're just clinging on because they don't have the money to buy the new developer kit. So
do you think one game can make a launch, such as Halo on the Xbox, that saved Xbox? If there was no Halo, we might not have an Xbox One.
Earlier discussion we've had, the Wii Sports is I always talk about attachment of other titles. A lot of people bought the Wii because they got Wii Sports. That's the only thing that they bought. So bottom line, not only system seller, that's that whole generation for them. Mm-hmm. They didn't ever buy shovelware. They didn't buy any Zelda, Mario, any of those titles. It was only Wii Sports. So Tetris was a nice thing and was a cultural shift, but the numbers are behind it. The impact it had, and the sales numbers of adoption rate, because I think a lot of people bought Game Boys that bought at least one more title. Something like 65% of people only bought a Wii, and they never bought a secondary title. So they had the Wii Sports, and that was it, because it was just Wii Sports and what it could provide for you, because everybody wanted to bowl. They wanted to bowl, and that's where you get all those videos of people throwing their Wiimote through their flat screen. And was that not all over the news?
That was.
And every YouTube video is, we just bought a 32-inch flat screen and my grandfather threw the Wiimote through it. That's all it was. But it was based on Wii Sports. So.
And the Nintendo 64 only launched with 2 games. Pilot Wing 64 and Super Mario 64. But again, Super Mario 64 changed the way 3D gaming is. But again, would we be able to do that this day, which Nintendo Switch almost did? They had 5 retail games in Breath of the Wild.
No, you remember they were doing pre-sales for Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. Because it was delayed. Which was a funny... I was working at Toys R Us at the time in college. And it was a funny thing because when Star Wars originally launched in 1977, that Christmas, Kenner was selling basically IOUs for figures because they didn't make the figures yet. So it was, get this cardboard thing, you'll pre-order 4 characters, and you'll put this under the tree, which is you open it up and it's like a pop-up gift card that shows the 4 characters, like they will be here in March. And that's what people were giving their kids, but it was Star Wars and it was such a cultural phenomenon and everything that it actually made Kenner into the powerhouse that it is today. That it's it's still a huge company bought out by Mattel, but still. But that's what we went through at Toys R Us is pre-orders everywhere. I remember trying to sell everything and saying we only had the 2, but you can pre-order these other 6 titles.
2 titles. That's all you need.
You can pay for it right now, and then just have them come with the receipt. They can pick it up, and on their way home from school, they can pick it up. Salt Lake, it was different time. Yeah.
It was 96 when this 64 launched. Again, Super Mario 64 was incredible. This might be controversial, but I don't have it in the top 3 greatest Mario games of all time. That might be a different time that we'll discuss that.
Yeah, that's a follow-up question.
Yes. But my second one is probably the Super Nintendo. They had 5 launch games. They had F-Zero, Gradius 3, Pilot Wings, SimCity, and Super Mario World. Again, I loved Gradius 3, F-Zero, again, that racer. Super Mario World is one of the greatest Mario games of all time.
Yeah, it wasn't for me.
That was your little add-ons to the Joy-Con. Where's the instruction manual? This don't make no sense to me.
Nope. How are you
Just
gonna?
nothing but menus.
Yeah, like
Click on icons.
So those are our greatest launch consoles of all time. Mo was PlayStation 2, Rich was the Game Boy, mine was the Nintendo Wii. Please let us know in the comments below what your opinion is and what you feel is the greatest game console launch ever.